Da, 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 da. Stop! Hammer time! Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. I'm joined by James, the Beastman Powell. That's mainly a reference to his chest hair. James, welcome to Hammertime 7 Redux. Are you excited?
Good morning, good morning. Yeah, I am ready to watch some Warhammer for the first time in ages.
Yeah, I know. Very, very excited. So we're at Hammertime 7 ladder match. That's what we're at. Both players actually have been requested at behest of the TO to actually play on top of a ladder. Not sure they're all doing it, James, but generally that's what it is. There are 8 players competing to be the winner of Hammertime 7 in a knockout tournament. So this is round 1. There are 4 matches going on, and they're all playing Scorched Earth. We're only covering one of those matches, but don't forget, the Owen Jackson will be here with updates from the other tables. We aren't going to be watching Orkman, who's our hero of the day, James, because he has got the toughest path to victory. He's the only destruction player in it. There are no chaos players. There are no death players. 1 destruction, 7 order players. James, how do you feel about
that? I mean, order is always the right way. I like the fact that someone that has a pop-up book managed to get to the final. I think that's an impressive achievement in their own right.
I think generally impressive. Destruction players with their pop-up books smashing it. So I'm very much looking forward to today. James is going to be my co-host for round 1. Round 2, we're going to be doing the preview show, and so but Owen is still going to be updating us what's happening in the semi-finals, and then the finals. We're back. Me and Adam Mumford going to be doing that final. Very much looking forward to it. The match that we're watching today is, of course, going to be the Living City, Marcus's Living City versus my favourite. As a long-time Shark player, we're going to be playing Sharks. That's what we're going to do. Yeah, long-time Shark player, James. Looking forward to it. Are you excited?
It's 2 weeks a long time.
2 weeks a long time?
Yeah.
No? Why have I been talking about Sharks a lot in 2 weeks?
Yeah, just thinking you've been talking about Sharks a lot the last 2 weeks.
Right, let's fly over to the game. Welcome everyone to the chat. Welcome everyone to the show. Thanks for getting here. Make sure you get as many people in the chat as possible. Tweet your friends, message your mum, all of that. That's what we want to see. So, as you can see, we've got Living City versus Booth 1. If you want to see the lists, you type ! lists in the chat. That will bring up the lists. So it's Cities of Sigmar versus Idoneth Deepkin, but those are the sub-factions. Living City's got some cool little additional things, James. He's going to be able to heal a wound in the hero phase, but most importantly, we are going to be putting units in the Viridian pathways. Our table boss, Matt, today is going to be letting us know which units are in the Viridian pathways. James, the Viridian pathway is a kind of narrative way of saying deep strike. How do you feel about units going into the Viridian pathways?
It's not a deep strike, though, is it? Because they're just in the forest. So they're not deep striking in. They're like leisurely strolling in.
They're in the deep forest, though.
Yeah, but it's a leisurely stroll. Have you never been to the deep forest?
Well, in the narrative, the forest is actually genuinely terrifying. Like, it truly, truly is. If you read it, Dryker has a whole army set up, ready to smash any who come before her, which is quite scary. But that's her. So
many anger issues.
So, I mean, you would be if you saw your entire country, realm overrun by chaos. I think that would genuinely upset you.
To be fair, if she saw the Sylvaneth book, she'd probably be angry too.
That's true. Right, let's talk about this Living City list. So the Living City list. Marcus done an amazing job with this Living City list. As you can see, this unit of Phoenix Guard going down here, and the Anointed. We'll talk about what's in the lists super quick, and then we'll talk about the details. Knight Heralder is going in this list. That's going to have a little cute trick that's going with that unit of Fulminators. Both units are going to deep strike together, and then what's going to happen is the unit of Fulminators are going to charge. They're going to get that extra damage on the charge, and then they're going to use the Fulminator's ability to retreat and charge on them. So that's a little combo that's in there. You've got the Anointed, who is the General. As you can see, he's gone down now. He's also got the Iron Oak Artisan, so he's a little bit tougher. And then, of course, he's an Anointed and a General, which means you're able to take this Phoenix Guard, that brick of 20, 320 points. Might look little, like 20 bodies on a 25mm base. Sometimes doesn't look that imposing, James. but it's 320 points of raw output. It's pretty scary. And then 10 more Phoenix Guard, 10 Iron Breakers, 6 Knight Shadow Stonkers, the strongest stonk maybe in all of Age of Sigmar right now, and then 20. That's right, not 5, 10, or 15. 20 Sisters of the Watch. James, what did you think of these Sisters of the Watch?
Yeah, they're kind of like a living city trick, I think, aren't they? Really, like their shooting's decent. When they pop on, they get double shots because it doesn't count as a normal move. And when they haven't moved, they get an extra one shot to all their weapons characteristics on their shooting, as long as there's no one within 3 inches of them. So their ability to kind of like come on from a board edge and rain death. Their 6s do mortals on hits, I think. No, on wounds, sorry. So it allows them to kind of appear on the board edge. So what did we say? There's 20, so they'll be getting 40 shots. 3s, no rem, 1 damage. They should be able to like start picking things off, I think. And they also have an old like a razor Dawn, like if you charge them, they'll shoot you first. So
yeah. They've got stand and shoot. They've got stand and shoot, which I think is going to be really, really important. However, and we're going to talk in a minute about the path to victory that has gone on for Marcus. So Marcus is playing this list. He's an Italian living in France. He doesn't know what sort of cheese he wants on his food, but it's definitely going to be continental. That's all I know as an English fella. And he is up against... his path to victory here, sorry, not who he's up against, his path to victory here was a pretty strong one, ultimately. In order to get here, he had to beat a Tzeentch Host Arcanum list with Archeon in. Then he had to beat an Idoneth Deepkin list, and he's up against one again. And then he had to beat a Barak Ziflin Karajan Overlords list. So 3 top armies that he had to go against to get here. So this is, there's no way... like that he isn't playing his heart out. Like you're going to see some good plays coming out of him, and I think there's a lot in there just from this deployment. We'll talk about that in a moment. But he's up against Svend, and Svend captured my heart 2 weeks ago. Svend was all in. Yeah, just beautiful man, beautiful list. He's got an Achillean King. And then he's obviously got Cloud of Midnight and the Void Chill Darkness, so he's minus 1 to hit. It's in Futh 1, which means he's going to get to reroll 1s to hit if he's near the Achillean King. He's got 3 lots of 3 Ishlan Guard, and we've seen 3 of them deployed right at the front and center here, as you can see. And he's also got so that's 9 defensive eels. That's the important point, James. Don't forget they're unrendable, but they're not ethereal, so you can add pluses to their save. So in the first turn, when they are in cover, they're going to be on a 2-up save. 3-up save, sorry. Unrendable. That's pretty scary, right? Like tanky. It's like a brick wall with fish. And then he's got, this is my favourite bit, he has 10. Count them if you ain't got nothing to do. 5 times 2 units of Alapexes. Now, when we first read this list 2 weeks ago, we expected there to be at least 1 Rostarius net launcher, the brand new update since Marathi. The net launcher makes a unit unable to pile in, but he has not gone for that at all, and they've all got the razor shell harpoons. Pew, pew, pew. And they're pretty good. We'll talk about those in a minute. He's then got 2 times 3 Aether Wings, and he's got another unit of shooters, but these are allies. This is Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows. They're really good because they're going to stop charges in the charge phase. That's what they do. As long as they're near the long strikes, they're going to stop charges. So pretty interesting overall here. I would say, a fairly delicate Living Cities army. That Sisters of Watch army, 320 points, James. Pretty cheap. Not pretty cheap, pretty fragile if it gets charged. Doesn't really want to get shot off, and probably will get shot off. The Phoenix Guard are pretty tanky, but there's a lot of wounds in the Deepkin army. So Twitch chat and you, how you feeling about this? What you reckon? How do you feel, James?
I think like the Sisters of the Watch are going to have trouble, aren't they? Because not only is he going to have to think about where he brings them on to kind of counteract being charged because they'll just get mown down. But he's also got to think about that Idoneth rule that where he brings them on is going to matter because they can only shoot the closest target. So I think that's an issue too.
It is a big issue. Let's talk about so we talk a lot about Tzeentch and their cheater dice. We do, it's a general conversation we have, and I think that's fine. Oh, thank you, Hydra Homish, for resubscribing. But let's talk about these on the board because these are just annoying. It's the gorgeous, the wonderful. Look at these Idoneth Deepkin boats that you're seeing here on the left and on the right. So they can get deployed They can get deployed anywhere, pretty much. Obviously, right next to terrain. And as you can see, normally what you see, quite annoyingly, is they're deployed right in front of your army. That's where you see them deployed, right in front. However, at this time, nope, they're on the flanks. And that's because of the special ability by Living City to bring units from the Viridian Pathways, which is wholly within 6 inches of the board edge, 9 inches away from the enemy. So as you can see, some aggressive screening being done at the back here by these units of Razor Wings. Not Razor Wings, they're not called that at all.
Aether Wings.
Aether Wings. And then...
wings are not like razors.
No, they're not at all. And then, so using those to screen at the back, controlling the centre board very aggressively, and then trying to stop some of this deep striking coming in by the shipwrecks. Not a huge fan of the terrain pieces having this big of an effect on this enemy army, James. You got any thoughts?
I think... The Idoneth, the big issue with the Idoneth one was when they made it not one boat but two, I think. I think it's a horrible kind of counter instantly to the Living City army, but I also just think, how many other armies, all included, some have terrain, some don't. I know we talk about that loads anyway, but I think, how many other armies can probably take, they're probably taking up, 12 inches almost long? 4 inches wide, nothing else can take up that much of a board space. You can basically almost wall up an entire board.
You can. It's very aggressive, as Halalex is saying in the chat. Rude as heck. Rude as heck. I feel I completely agree with that as well. Also, don't forget that they're going to do damage in the hero phases to anything that's an enemy near them. And they also are going to help the Idoneth Deepkin when they're near them as well. So ultimately, it's just, well, it's not cricket. Let's just put it that way, James. I'm not a very big fan of this. I think it's a bit strong and a bit unfair. But you've got to use the advantages that you've got really for the army that you're playing.
And also, you don't get to Hammertime 7 without playing aggressively. Right?
He's not looking to make friends, is he, Sven? That's not his plan. That's not his plan. Right,
no,
let's talk about these
Alapexes. All he wants to
Alapexes.
do is watch people burn.
That's it. All he wants to do is shoot them. Right, let's talk about the Achillean Alapexes. So 8 wounds each, 4-up save. So we've got 80 wounds on a 4-up save inside this unit of Alapexes, as you can see here. Pretty strong. And they've got a shooting attack, which is 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 1. Don't forget, rerolling 1s to hit because they're in Futh 1. And they move 14 inches. So they have a 28-inch effective range. They're really good. And you're like, okay, that's a good shooting unit. That's a strong shooting unit that we're seeing. But it's also smashing in combat. They've got a Ferocious Bite, which is 3 attacks each, 3s and 3s, rend 2, 2 damage. And don't forget, of course... the Grey Lycan, thank you for resubscribing. Don't forget, of course, that this is an Idoneth Deepkin army. So really, James, you can just set your clock right now. That's what you want to do. Put your timer on because we're waiting for turn 3. That's what we're doing. We're waiting for turn 3 and this army to engage in the fight. This is what we're looking for. My favourite turn. Is your favourite turn, James? Do you like it when the whole army strikes first?
Am I playing it? In the question, let's give me the scenario. Am I playing the army that gets to hit everything first? Or am I being hit by everything first?
You're being hit by everything first.
No, I don't like that turn. I think it's one of those really interesting mechanics, isn't it? And I know it gets talked about all the time. I think the scariest thing when you look at Deepkin and look at that kind of setup is that they're so fast you can almost not avoid it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they're a bunch of Chaos Warriors, let's say, or even Chaos Knights who are fast but have to go round things. Like, when everything's moving fast and hitting you first, it's a terrifying phase to be on, like, the other end of. And then you're like, well, it's my turn. Oh, no, they still hit me first. I'll avoid them for a turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you will. I hate whatever you're doing with your hands. I just want you to know that. Like,
My apologies.
it's okay. So hello everyone in the Twitch chat. Thanks for joining us live for this match. We're playing Scorched Earth. That's the next thing for me to tell everyone. 8 objectives. 8 objectives on the board. They are all worth a victory point each. Unless, from Battle Round 2, you burn the objective. And how do you do that? You outscore your opponent, which means you just capture the objective like you normally would do. And you can just score the point. However, if you have it, you can just burn it. If you own it, you can burn it. If you burn it with a hero, you're going to get an extra victory point. However, if your opponent has a hero within 6 inches of it, you are not going to be able to burn it. So, and it has obviously been FAQ'd because we all FAQ this everywhere around the world, that when you burn it, it's only worth flat 2 victory points as opposed to D3. James, my favourite battle plan from General's Handbook 2020. I talk about this all the time. My favourite.
Your favourite?
My favourite. Have you got a favourite? Is this your favourite? Twitch chat, is this your favourite?
I quite like the new ones, but I think that's because I've never really got to play them.
Okay, yeah.
So I think there's like still an excitement there. I think, you know, normally we see a General's Handbook drop and we get really excited about it, and then we play it a load and then we're like, I love this one, hate this one. But I think, like, I would say that probably the new ones were always the most exciting ones. I always think this is about a plan that has, you know, we've seen in different versions, haven't we? But is always a really exciting one. But, you know, that kind of player kind of self-change to it, or self-patch to make them worth 2 points, is the first thing that's made it really balanced and not like super random of, oh, I'm rolling D3, I've burnt 1, or I rolled a 3. Well, you've burnt 3 and you've rolled 3 1s. Draw.
Yeah. It's not right. Twitch chat. I think Twitch chat are up for retconning this as well. Comp is the word. Oh, look at this. Very interesting. The Fulminator's down on the board, it looks like, as well as the Heralder.
I didn't expect to see that.
I didn't expect to see that at all. That's a big run and charge. One of the things about... However, the 2 units that are in the pathways, the Celestial Hurricanum and the Sisters of the Watch. They are in the pathways. Now, actually, great decision by putting those Fulminators on the board. James is someone who's ran them a lot. I really love the Fulminators, specifically because they have a 3-up save rerolling 1s. Against shooting, though, they get +1 to save. So they're going to have a 2-up rerolling 1 save. However, there is rend on those sharks. Those sharks have got rend. And that's going to take it back to that 3-up rerolling 1 save, which is pretty nice. Nice.
You just don't want to see 2s. It's that weird scenario, isn't it, where you're like, I'm almost confident myself, but I don't want to see a 2 because then I don't even have the chance to use my reroll.
Yeah, it's going to change the shape of that kind of like interaction pretty massively. However, this unit, 20 wounds, so 5 wounds apiece on that 3-up save. Now, they don't look like they have particularly strong output when you look at them at the start. 3 attacks each, 3s, rend 1 damage. However, when they charge, it's going to go straight to damage 3. Damage 3 on the charge. And then the claws and fangs, they also change up as well, the claws and fangs.
So if you hit a 6, I think. Is it 6 on the wound roll?
Yes, wound roll. It becomes D6 damage. Now, they've only got 3 attacks each with those, but it is going to give him 12 attacks looking at rend 1, and any 6s to wound, D6 damage. So again, talking about like how the dice could change up here, that Fulminator unit could go from like, it could do some pretty good damage on the charge to almighty damage on the charge. Like if he rolls, super lucky. And it ends up proccing, which is always fun. I always like those things because it means we could see something insane happen in the game.
I mean, I think it's that interesting thing, isn't it, where those 4 Fulminators could probably go through, like a whole set of defensive eels. They could probably go through 4 sharks if they rolled really well. they could also do nothing. They're just they you know, like when we go back to like Stormcast, like book 2, when they added the dragon units and the standard units together, like those Fulminators were one of the most terrifying units in the game. They haven't seen a lot of love, I don't think, since, but I think this Cities book kind of really brought them back onto a table, and they're such great models.
Great models. They're great models. But they've also got some cool little interactions here. Knight Heralder's going to give them run and charge. So that base move 10 gives them that 16-inch move if he decides to spend the CP. And he obviously has bought CP in his list. And then he's going to be able to use the command ability to move after the shooting phase. But they have a 12-inch shooting attack, James. Right?
Yeah.
And so they're going to be able to make an additional 10-inch move. But I don't think that they can use I'm pretty certain they can't use the Stormblast ability if they've ran. I don't think Heralder gives you run and shoot, but let me just go and check.
He does not, but I can't remember, because it used to be the Dracoff move used to be
so no,
an
you can't,
ability,
you can't.
not a shot.
So
it's now a shot, isn't it?
Unit has to have shot and can't after shooting. So he's got two options. He's got run and charge from the Heralder, or he's got move, shoot a 12-inch shot, and then move again another 10 inches because of the command ability from Living City. So those are the kind of two options that we're seeing here. So maybe a 20-inch move, maybe a 16-inch move and a charge, depending on whether or not those Aether Wings are within 22 inches. Which will be interesting. If he has, I'm pretty certain.
I think they're within 16. I think I saw him measure it.
Yeah, I think that they're close enough. I think that it's the option to go here. We'll hear from our table boss who gets the choice to go first. Okay, they're just doing their auxiliaries, obviously important here. Twitch chat, it's time for you to tell me, who are you rooting for? Who are you rooting for? Let's go. Are you on the Idoneth Deepkin side? Are you on Living City? James, whose side you on?
I think I'm just on the side of the Fulminators. Forget everyone else. Just want to see those Fulminators go ham so I can get 4 back out the cupboard.
Okay, that's fair.
Also, I think we should write an open letter. Everyone in the chat should write an open letter to Games Workshop. So if this Living City list wins, I want Fulminators battle line. Don't care how, why, or where. That's what I want.
Fulminators as battle line.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I hear you.
It looked great.
Speckle says it's like picking your left or right eye to be poked out. I think City's really the underdog in this situation. I'm all for Sven and the Alapexes, but I think that there's some real big movement issues here. Look at this aggressive center of the board taking by Sven. Like, he's dominating. He's like, look, I'm in charge of the center of the board here. And as you can see, he's going to be able to put some pretty big hurt in the middle. There isn't a lot that you've got coming out from the Cities of Sigmar army, like initially, apart from that brick of Fulminators. And I don't know, man, 40 shots coming out of those Alaplexes, I think are going to be really serious damage to those Fulminators. But the Phoenix Guard are tankier than they look. They've got 4-up armor save. Obviously, don't forget that they, of course, have got that 4-up DPR save on top. So really, it's a brick of 40 wounds as opposed to a brick of 20 wounds in there. Those Ironbreakers that hold the objective. There just looks to be a lot of board control available to the Deepkin.
I think it's that interesting thing, isn't it, where we know like those Phoenix Guard don't like to die, but those, we talked about it earlier, those tiny 25mm bases, they don't look as terrifying, but also their like board control space is so small, and then you flip to like that Alapex view and you're like, cool, they fill half the board.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's some big plays, even though there's this aggressive brick in the center that can hold the center quite nicely, especially with that shooting attack. These Aether Wings, they're quite likely to go down to some like minimal shooting. We've got the Shadow Stonkers. They've got the ability to go and like pick them off as well. Don't forget, we've also got that unit of Sister of the Watch and the Hurricane, which is another shooting unit and a hero off the board. But we're in the first turn now, James. It is off. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to get your tickets and take part on the ride that is going to be this game, because we're off to the races. And Living City has given the first turn away. That's right. Given the first turn away to the Idoneth Deepkin. How do you feel about that? Do you feel the Deepkin are going to go super hard, or do you feel that they're going to just kind of passively move up? I do wonder. I think you're seeing that 22-inch threat range from those fulminators being measured out right there. Very interesting. You gotta root for Marcus. I think Marcus has had a very tough path to victory to get himself here. So I feel like he's got some plays. He's decided to give this turn away. Would you do the same?
It's such a big thing, isn't it? He realistically, I think he wants to draw those sharks out. The issue is that it gives them almost like a turn of just blasting him, doesn't it? But it does put them more susceptible. And I think also, although there's a huge threat bubble in that kind of pile of sharks in the middle, once he brings them forward, it does allow for kind of that backboard edge deployment of those sisters.
Yes.
So I don't know. It's such a hard one. I think realistically, when you look at this, Idoneth Deepkin are just such an aggressive army, and then you throw in those unrendable defensive eels, and you're like, cool, they're also really tanky. It's so, and fast. They're tanky, they're fast. There's a load of wounds in there. They shoot like trucks. They fight like hell. It's not an army I think you want to be trying to hold your own against.
I love this list. It's so aggro. The Deepkin list is so aggro. I like Marcus's list because he's got a lot of plays. He's got himself a lot of outs. He's given himself lots of options. I mean, some of it is not going to change shape as the game goes on. Not as many teleports and repositions. So this unit of Phoenix Guard on the bottom, they're a linchpin. They have to survive. They're holding that objective. They're going nowhere. They're not playing aggressive. They're not moving up the board. They are rock solid. They're stuck to where they are. Same with the Ironbreakers on the bottom right. Same thing. They're locked in. They're holding that objective. That's theirs. And if you can see, they're in that cover there, James, which is also mystical, right? So that Ironbreaker unit is indestructible, I'm going to call it. Yeah, they are tough as nails. They've got a 6-up DPR. They've got cover. They are tanky. So they're going to hold this objective quite nicely. So it's really about this center. It's really about how this center is going to play. And there's such an aggressive amount of output coming from the center of this Deepkin army. It's ferocious, is all I'm going to describe it as, which kind of makes sense with 10 sharks. I mean, Jaws, imagine how, you followed the Fast and Furious film franchise, James. Film 1, they were driving cars around their local area, stealing some cars. That was about it. Film 10, they're now racing cars on the moon. Imagine what Jaws would have been if we'd have got to Jaws 10.
This
is Jaws 10.
Yeah. And he brought a harpoon launcher because he was sick of being shot with harpoons.
Yeah. That's actually really interesting that they decided to take harpoons on. I'm sick of this. I'm going to use those. They seem great. So, yeah, we've... Is it Sharknado Jaws 10? Yeah, I guess so. This is a full Sharknado. But my point is that it's an aggressive center play, right? It's an aggressive amount of output that we can see here. Yeah. But like you've said, if you look, he's screening with that unit of Ishlan Guard. Oh boy. I honestly, if I'm honest, I can't wait to see what Marcus does. Because this feels, Mage Down, thank you for subscribing, big love, appreciate you, new subscriber. This feels over straight away, James. Now this isn't this is a gut feeling. This isn't what are the plays. This is a gut feel that this is over. But I don't think he's got any range. Let me just measure. I'm pretty certain he doesn't. I don't think he's got any range. Oh no! Wow, that unit. I'm pretty certain all those sharks are in range of that unit of Phoenix Guard in the center.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's rough. Oh boy. I mean, if you knew, I guess he doesn't know. He didn't know during deployment. During deployment, he didn't even know, right, where those sharks were going initially. Phoenix Guard were one of the first things he put down. So, this is rough. This is going to be rough. 40 shots coming in. 3s and 3s. Reroll 1s to hit. Rend 1. So it's going to be a 5-up, 4-up on those Phoenix Guard. And this is just turn 1. I'm pretty scared and worried for these guys, if I'm honest. And as you can see, he's measured out the Fulminators. That 22-inch move, he's not scared about it. I guess Marcus is just hoping he gets that priority roll into turn 2, right?
Yeah. I think at this point he's almost got a, which is terrifying on turn 1.
Ooh. I mean, that's why movement is so important. That's why we talk about it. This is going to be like Space Wolves rough. This is Morning Born Again Man-Child. Cartor TV says Living City Army equals Piper Perry right now. I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's looking pretty tough. This shooting phase is going to be pretty scary. But then, even if he doesn't die, even if he doesn't lose all of the Phoenix Guard, he still gives up the center quite well, and that's pretty bad, eh, James?
Yeah, I think the problem is as well, isn't it? Like, even if Marcus takes that second turn priority, trying to, even if those Phoenix Guard in the center live, he's somehow got to try and deal with all those sharks. I feel like you almost need to charge these 4 Fulminators into 2 sets, and then try and chew through 2 into 2, 2 into 2, and hope that they do enough damage output to kill them.
The sharks are not bad. Like, they're 8 wounds apiece, right? But they've got 3 attacks each. Rend 2, damage 2. So out of just a unit of 2 of them, 6 attacks, Rend 2, damage 2. They're scary. Also, let's talk about Damocles' dagger above their head, or Damocles' jaws above their head. We are waiting for, unfortunately, that turn 3 always strikes first going off.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. How many Phoenix Guard will die to shooting, do you think, says J-Boom? Interesting question.
How many shots is it per shark? 3?
So you got 40 shots, 4 shots per shark.
4 shots per shark, 40 shots.
Although I don't know if they're all in range, actually. So I don't think some of these Alapex... Oh, no, yeah. They're all in range. So, I don't know, maybe 5? Maybe 6? Which is...
I don't know. So 40 shots, hitting on...
3s. We roll in 1s, we're on 3s. Rend 1, so it gives them a 5-up save. But you've got to remember there's that 4-up after damage save.
I think at least 10 go if they all hit.
Well,
they all shoot 10.
Well, here we go. This is the time. Now, the election of which models he's going to remove is going to be important, maybe, to see whether or not he's going to get them all in. Oh, so is he just rolling them all together? He probably is just going to roll them all together. Here we go, then, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go find out.
He has a command point because he brought one in his list.
Yeah.
Cartor TV.
Yeah. So here we go. Oh, so he's only 24 wounds through. 24 wounds through. Some great saves there. 16 after damage saves. Oh, he's lost 11.
Oh, it's close.
It's a 3-round knockout event today. This is round 1. There are 3 other games happening at the same time. At some point, Owen is going to be back to give us an update on what's happening in those other games. Those other games probably still just deploying, though. So it will take some time. 11. See, James, I feel like this is over already. Do you know what I mean? I guess holding within 6 inches of the board edge. Wait, was he clever? Did he counterplay? No, because he can't even do that. I do wonder if what he did was he set up. Okay, so that's the end of the turn, going into Liver City's first turn. I do wonder now, because he's within range of the Anointed of Asurian here. The Phoenix Guard are immune to Battle Shock. So they're safe as houses. So safe as houses. However, I was wondering, basically, whether or not he set this up as a trap. Bring the Sharks forward. Bring on the Sisters of the Watch. Because if he set these Phoenix Guard up behind 6 inches, he could have brought the Sisters of the Watch on within 6 inches and then return fire. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That makes sense? And that would have been a clever counterplay. I think still susceptible, because then he could have potentially had the bring them on, shoot again, because they when they come on they get to shoot twice. Get the priority roll, shoot again. He could have had that Sister Watch unit shooting basically 4 shots apiece into that brick of sharks and used the Phoenix Guard as bait. I do wonder if that's what we're going to see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. We're going to wait to see. No hero phase stuff. We've got run and charge put onto the Fulminators. I'm pretty certain. We've just heard from our table boss. It's pretty devastating first turn, eh, James? 11 Phoenix Guard.
It's a lot of dead Phoenix Guard. It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting when you they're one of those units. People are like, they just don't die. They never move.
Oh, that ability isn't done till the movement phase though, so that's when it's going to engage. Is actually the case. Yeah, I think he just has to go all the way in. I think he just has to go, cool, I'm going straight in right away. That's what he has to make that decision on, I feel. He's got to run forward and decide he's going to go smash him. And he has to be super aggro into this army straight away. Now, don't forget that we saw the Sharks do similar. These Alapexes, we saw them take out 11 wounds on Archeon with a 2-up rerollable save at one point. So they're not scared, I would say. And it's still 80 wounds in that brick on a 4-up save is pretty tasty. And of course the Achillean Kings there as well. To dish out Inspiring Presence if that's needed. Also making units within 3 inches, models within 3 inches, -1 to hit. So, yeah. James, what would you be doing now? Running back to the Viridian Pathways?
Maybe. I think, but back to the forest, ask Striker for help, hope she's pissed off enough for turn up. Or charge those sharks in death or glory. Probably death. Probably no glory. But you could give it a go.
I want everyone to know Owen picked the game. I want everyone to know that. I voted for Orkman, but that's not true. Owen gave me the choice between this and Orkman. Okay, so the Fulminators are running. He's using the command point to make sure that they go 6, so they're going 16 inches. So probably looking to threaten one of these objectives very early. Maybe looking to threaten this unit of Aether Wings, which is a good call. Let's see if he gets the double, he could take out these unit of Aether Wings. Maybe even threaten this Ishling Guard unit.
I think the other thing is, isn't it, if he... Okay, so I think it's worth kind of thinking about, isn't it? Because if he throws these Fulminators forward and he can kill those Aether Wings with, let's say, just the shooting, so they're 1 wound apiece, each shot's D3 damage, so he could just take them out and shoot, and he could charge those eels, which I think is probably the play I would go for now. What he also allows is, if he wins the priority, is those Sisters of the Watch to now pop on that board head and start pushing from that side, which I would say...
You think he's going to try and roll the flank?
Yeah, well, what else do you do at this point? He's got to pull some of those sharks away. He's got to pull some of those sharks away from his home objectives, I think.
Well, I mean, if he was sensible, what he'd do is he'd bring the Sisters of the Watch on the right-hand side, but he would throw a bunch of chum on the left-hand side, would be what he'd be doing. He'd just be looking to attract those sharks with any bait he could find possible. Maybe some, discarded cat food. I'm not really sure what sharks eat, but, anything. Basically.
Anything bloody, I think.
Yeah, some surfers, just anything you could throw on this left-hand side, I think. I mean, those boats have caused some pretty aggressive blocking, ultimately. Look, the Heralder's running himself all the way up.
He's having a great time.
Yes. Having a great time. There he is, moving up the board. But he's going to be looking to do retreat and charge on those Fulminators. That's what he's going to be looking to activate. It's going to be super important that he's able to use that. Okay. Oh, I am not. But okay. So right now. So this is round 1. There are 8 people competing to be the champions of Hammertime. And this is only 1 match. There are 3 other matches. They're all order versus order, apart from our one-man Orkman, the champion and the legend. So we're going to jump over now to our man Owen Jackson in the field, and what he's going to do is going to tell us what's happening at the rest of the matches that are going on, the other 3 matches. So over to Owen, the legend, right now.
Sweet. That wasn't my fault. This is like Swordgate all over again for the old school crew. So yes, basically we have 4 tables in total. So yes, the top 8 players from Hammertime 7. So looking across the board, we've got players from all over the world. It's pretty amazing. We've got Canada versus Hungary on table 1, United Kingdom versus Argentina, United Kingdom versus Spain, and Denmark versus Italy. So a real international field. So yes. I probably want to start on table 1, which is Orkman. I know that there's a clamoring to know how he's getting on. This is Ridge Hannah versus Orkman. So this is an MSU Bigwar versus Seraphon Fangs of Sotek. Orkman, and they both castled up kind of opposite each other. You often see on this battle plan people set up diagonally away from each other. But yeah, basically it's they've set up castles opposite each other. Orkman gave away turn 1, and Ridge is just getting all those buffs up. So he's getting all the salamanders, and the skinks are getting all juiced up. Croak's doing some mortal wounds. He only got 2 on Comet's Core, so he got a couple of wounds off some of the war chanters. But Orkman's got the fixing beat there, so you can hopefully get them juiced back up and healed again. So yeah, Orkman looking pretty solid there, to be honest with you. I don't think Ridge, he hasn't really pushed out much. Table 2, this is Koltar versus Trogdor. Now this is the Seraphon mirror match, the Battle of the Lizards. Dracothian's Tail is what Koltar's running versus Fangs of Sotek. Looking at my notes, Koltar is actually taken first turn. He outdropped him. He took first turn, and he's got 6 salamanders off the board, 2 units of 3 ready to fire hot death upon Trogdor. So I think all of Trogdor's screens will be gone, and I think Koltar's going for that turn 1 shock and awe. Try and really cripple the opponent and dominate the board. And then finally, turn 3, they took table 3. They took ages to deploy, but had the quickest first turn. This is Lumineth Realm Lord's Sire build with Teclis and a couple of Sharks versus a Hagnar Daughters of Cain with Morathi and lots of Witch Elves and Sister Slaughter. Matt gave away turn 1. He deployed quite defensively, so he didn't give Audam any turn 1 charges. This is Matthew Goldsborough and Leandro Audam Lopez. Yeah, so they deployed diagonal to each other. Matt didn't give him any turn 1 charges, so he put Morathi went on the line along with a big block of sisters. So he's pushed up. He had a long charge, didn't make it. So now Matt's getting into his turn. He's going to be getting all his buffs up and hopefully pushing for the double, or at least having the opportunity to choose. So yeah, that's it really. I'm going to keep you abreast of everything that's going on, hopefully. As we get sort of in the next hour, we'll certainly be able to see how the games are developing and hopefully be able to pinpoint winners and losers at that point. But I think let's get back to the main table. Obviously, Marcus looks like he's got a lot of work to do, but let's see if he can do it. So I'm going to pass you back to James and Rob in the booth. And yeah, they're going to take you through the rest of the game. Cheers. Bye.
So welcome back to this match. Lovely to hear from Mr. Owen Jackson. Me and James taking you through this game, and then the lovely table boss Matt. Now let me tell you, some big plays, James, happened on our first turn. Quick as well. Quick. You guys are going to get a fun game out of this. In the first turn, the Living City gave the turn away. Idoneth Deepkin pushed up. They shot off 11 of our Phoenix Guard holding this back objective here. Looking pretty rubbish. However, an aggressive first turn play. The Fulminators ran up. They got their charge. They killed the Aether Wings. James, we've gone into priority roll. Oh, baby. It's gone to Living City. Living City are in. That's what we're seeing here. And they've got the turn. Going into turn 2, they have got the turn. James, your Fulminators are doing exactly what you wanted. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's nice. I mean, they deleted 3 birds at the minute, but I think it'll be interesting now to see them push this flank. I'm going to go with it and just hope that the Sisters of the Watch appear on that flank as well and try and rain like elfy death onto some Idoneth Deepkin. It's an odd one, isn't it? Because realistically, because of the Idoneth Deepkin rules, they're only going to be able to shoot those Ishilin Guard that are on that edge, so those defensive eels. but it will be nice to see those removed to allow those Fulminators a kind of free charge into those Alapexes.
It's gonna be interesting to see what does happen here, because obviously the Heralder's close enough that he's going to be able to give those Fulminators the command ability from Living City, so they can have that move again. And I'm pretty certain 10 inches, they might be able to sneak around that back. It does depend, and get into the back lines. Now that's not massive, but if they can knock off this objective, they could potentially own both these two back objectives in turn 2, and they're going to be able to burn them. That's the important point. There is no objectives near here. That's going to put some massive, massive first turn pressure over onto the Idoneth Deepkin. Interesting to see what he's going to do here. As you can see, he's elected not to move anything onto... Oh, he might run over his hero. No, he's not. So he's given up on this right objective. He's putting this objective here.
Who needs that one anymore?
Huh?
Who needs that one anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Who does need it? But when we do, we haven't seen. We're still waiting for this Khainite Shadow Stonker unit, and of course this Sisters of the Watch and this Hurricanedom still to come on from Deep Strike. But the priority role for this has put Living City in the game, because I'm pretty certain had it gone to Deepkin, as is being said on the chat, those sharks would have just wiped those Fulminators out. Yeah, that would have just been game over. And again, another positive reason why the priority role is so important, because in this situation, if it had been you go, I go, we're pretty certain Idoneth Deepkin just win turn 2. That's whereas now, Living City have got a chance, and that's exciting. I'm very, very much looking forward to this, James. I wonder what... Look, there you go. He's measuring that 3 inches, because what we're looking here, we're looking to see if he can sneak around these Fulminators in the back. 100%. He's going to do the mortal wound shooting into the Ishling Guard, because they're still super defensive. Smash those. What's he got on this objective? He's got 3 big sharks. He's got 3 of the Ishling Guard, and then he's got 2 of the Raptors. So what he really needs to do is kill the Raptors and the Ishling Guard and get all 4 Fulminators onto that objective. If you can do that, he's grabbed both of those objectives in a single turn. Still waiting to see what he does with the Sisters of the Watch, though. Still no idea when they're coming on. I wonder if the boats have just ruined all the plans.
I still think, I think is it the end of the movement phase that they come on, right?
Yeah. It's the end of the movement phase, so we're still waiting to see that happen.
Yeah, so for me, I'd be bringing them...
Of course, he's given himself the little gap here.
Yeah, you'd be bringing them onto this board edge here, onto this objective, and then just trying to fire hell. Because what he could do is shoot those Ishling Guard with the Sisters of the Watch, and then hopefully open up a shoot into those Vanguard Raptors with the Fulminators to trigger the Living City move, which would then make the charge easier for those Fulminators at the back.
Wow, this is really exciting. This is really, really exciting. Not forgetting also the Hurricanedom's coming on, potentially. Hurricanedom's got a mortal wound shooting shot as well.
Yeah. You always forget. Well, I always forget that. They don't normally last long enough or get that shot off enough to ever make me think about it.
Well, yeah, and also it's got the +1 to hit aura. That's the other reason it's coming on with this. This is the watch. Yeah. And of course, good shout there from Aid in the chat, is the Heralder has got an ability, if he uses it, which is you pick a piece of scenery wholly within 18 inches. And this piece of forest, this forest in the center, James, he might be able to get in range, not certain. And if he explodes that, what he can do is he can trumpet. It's a weird ability. Age of Sigmar is a weird game. Basically, he plays a musical song, and that makes this piece of terrain blow up, James.
Do you know why?
Why?
Bards are super powerful.
Bards are powerful. That's correct. Here they come. Look at this. He's given himself the opening. That unit of Aether Wings, he's given himself that big opening in the center there. On the right-hand flank. Oh, this could be big. This is really big. I don't want to see the Sharks go down, but I'm really happy for Marcus here. I think this is a blinder. Again, that priority role, super key. Let's make sure we remind ourselves that Sven really couldn't have done much else, I don't think. But this has given us a game. This has given us a game, James. I'm very excited to see what happens. I don't know about you. These Sisters of the Watch, what's their profile, James? Talk me through it.
Oh, so they're an interesting one, and actually, like, between you and the chat, you can remind me of my rusty Warhammer rules. So the Sisters of the Watch have they're an 18-inch range shooting attack, They only get 1 attack each. It's 3s to hit, 3s to wound, no rem 1 damage.
Mhm.
If they on a wound roll a 6, it does a mortal wound. In addition to any other damage, which is always nice to see. But they're big, kind of scary thing, I would say. So if there are no enemies within 3 inches of them, so if they're not in combat, and they haven't moved that turn, they get to add 1 to all their bow attack characteristics.
Mhm.
So it would mean instead of so we've got 20, haven't we? So instead of 20 shots, we would see 40 shots coming from those Sisters of the Watch.
And then hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s. However, of course, the gorgeous Hurricane that's going to come with them is going to be making them hit on 2s. Hitting on 2s. Now, if he spends the CP on the unit as well, he's going to be hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. And that rerolls is going to be super useful as well. Marcus has, let me just double check, he is sat on 2 CP right now. So we could see rerolling 1s coming into that unit, which I think would make a load of sense. And then that gives him, and those rerolling 1s are going to give him more opportunity to proc those mortal wounds on 6s, ultimately. And I think that's going to be super useful for him as well.
So here's a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
So at this point, would you shoot the Fulminators into the no-rend eels?
Yeah.
Because it's just D3 mortal wounds, right? So you want those Fulminators to blast as many of those eels out of the way as physically possible, in the hope that you kill them, which would allow the Sisters of the Watch. Oh no, they're out of range because it's 18 inches.
It's 18 inches. Actually, like, as much as we're impressed by this output, the best they're going to do is wipe that Ishling Guard out, because they don't have loads of shooting, right? 18 inches. I think most shooting should be 18 inches in Age of Sigmar. Like, I'm pretty set in stone on that. I think 24, 30, 36 inches, it's ridiculous. There's no point. Like, I like that you have to be close enough, and it's danger close, right? You're within 18 inches, so all of these sharks can fly over. They can do their damage as well. I think that's quite interesting. I think he's stuck. I think he has to shoot at this unit of Ishling Guard in the center. I think that has to be what he does. But it does give him some options there. At the minute, I think what he's mainly trying to do is he's trying to destroy the circle of power. If you think about it, let's look at it from a top down and look at like how the game plays out.
So that's interesting, right?
Tell me what
he's dropped that Hurricanum, so it'll also affect the Fulminators. So that's going to make them hit on a 3-up as well. So because their attack is now a shooting profile, not an ability, that interestingly also gives them a 3-up to just do D3 mortal wounds flat. So four times D3 mortal wounds on a 3-up.
I don't know if it affects I don't think it'll affect the Fulminators.
It's a profile though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it hits on 4. You're right. It hits on 4s. Yeah, so it wounds on 3s. It hits on 3s now. Yeah, 100%. Let's talk about.
That makes it super good.
Yeah, really good. Really, really good. And again, more mortal wounds coming out, and it means that Fulminator unit, because it's wholly within range. If you look, wholly within range of the Hurricanum, it's going to be able to use the Living City command ability. So if they can wipe everything out from this objective, from the shooting from the Sisters of the Watch, the shooting from the Fulminators. And again, it's 12 inches. If they could do that, they can use the command ability after the shooting phase to make that Fulminator unit move up to where the Ishling Guard are now, and they can start attacking into these Alapexes and smash a unit of those Alapexes. So we could see the Raptors die, the Ishling Guard die, and maybe a unit of 2 Alapexes go out here. And let's look at what this means to the whole board. The old ambush Hurricanum. What a classic.
I love the fact that that's been pushed. Those 2 horses have pulled that through. What you said, I didn't, I'd like to point out, was a terrifying forest. And yet, 2 horses have managed to pull a giant orb through that apparently terrifying forest.
Which is actually some little good information for later when we see the Lumineth release from the React video or the reveal stream. Camels apparently terrify horses, something new I found recently. So it'd be interesting to see if there's horses of -1 bravery while we're within 12 inches of a camel released later. But that's a whole different conversation. So one of the one of the interesting takes here, James, is can you ambush with a cart? And the answer is yes. It seems it's possible to ambush with carts and horses.
Apparently, and no one heard those horses clip clopping down that forest path.
Okay, so we're in the shooting phase right now, and the Ishlingard have got 24 saves to make after 6 mortal wounds. This is from the Sisters of the Watch. Right? Really good. 16 damage from 16 damage from the Sisters of the Watch. Oh my god!
So now I think what we want to see is.
So the Hurricaneum's got to shoot. Don't forget the ambushing Hurricaneum is going to shoot.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. So I'd shoot those fulminators into, depending on the range, and I know he's missioning.
Okay. So the Hurricaneum.
What's the range on those fulminators though?
Is shoot 12 inches. 12 inch. So only one is in range. So 12.
But he could shoot. Oh my god, this is paining me. So he should be shooting those fulminators into those raptors, and then using that Living City move to get them closer to those sharks. Forget the Hurricaneum.
I think what he's going to do, because I would probably hammer into the sharks, but I kind of see what his point is. He maybe is going to go after the raptors. Oh, the raptors are gone. There we go. He's rolled super well on the Hurricaneum. Only 6 wounds in there, but that's still pretty impressive. Let's go Living City. So now he's going to make that move. He's probably going to do some mortal wounds from his one shooting attack, and then he's going to make a move using the command ability. All he has to do is one shot. That's all he has to do, and then
does he have to shoot?
No, he just has to shoot. Hit? He just has to shoot.
Okay, so that's my bad. I was thinking he had to hit.
No. So he just has to shoot.
Matter, does
it? So here we go. So now the Fulminators are moving up using the command ability.
And we've pre-measured the 3-inch line.
Yeah, we have. Right, can we talk about the whole Hey J-Pick, Herminister, Zaidi guy? Hope you're all well. So 2 sharks charging the Fulminators can almost take them out in one go, says Femington Confetti. Let's talk about the board space, because I think this is actually super interesting. I think Marcus has played a blinder, some really good plays here. Opened himself up a gap, and he's given himself some punch in the middle. What I really want to talk about is how the Idoneth Deepkin retaliate. That's the truth of it. Because they have to, all of the threats are in this top right-hand corner.
Yeah.
And they have to bring all of their hatred to bear, which is good, it's useful, but the reason that I think this is super interesting is because they obviously want to go and tag all of the opponent's bottom objectives, and they probably don't have enough output to go and deal with the top right-hand corner while also doing all those simultaneously. So they have to take a turn, maybe 2 turns, to be able to deal with this top right-hand corner.
Yep.
Maybe they won't. Maybe it'll just get deleted in a turn. We'll see. However, if they don't do that, and don't forget, these aren't like little 10-man guardsmen. This is a unit of Phoenix Guard. This is another unit of Phoenix Guard. And then that's a unit of Ironbreakers in cover. And there's also a unit of Shadow Stonkers still available. So they've still got some major threats.
I think the other problem is, isn't it, if he clears these 2 objectives, he can burn both of them. And then he's not only got to deal with all those threats, but there's also nothing to fight for.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. I would hold on to these objectives. I'd make him take them off me personally, because what he wants to do, what Marcus is trying to do, is he's trying to make him split up Sven's force, and Sven's force, when it fights in this big concentrated block, is incredibly powerful. As it starts to split apart, the numbers change quite significantly, and he might not be able to take him all out, is my point. And then the clock is already against Sven now, because, as we know, the points are now massively in Living City's favour, and they're going to continue to be so. So Sven has to go and attack all the objectives, while at the same time also taking out the major threats. Okay, so we're just seeing some the combat going in now. I mean, we're not far away though, because we're on turn 2, so we're only a turn away, James, from always strikes first Idoneth.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of sharks that can strike first, right?
I mean, it's a turn, right? I think it's that weird system, isn't it? Now where he almost wants to put all the shooting into that kind of top corner of the board, but realistically, kind of threaten every objective on Marcus's side. Those Idoneth really want to push that Living City kind of board edge now, but he's on the back foot. So in that first turn, he scored nothing, I don't think. What do you scored? You don't score in the. Oh yeah, you do. So he scored. Yeah, so it's 4-4. So it's even even Stevens until people start to burn at the minute.
Yeah, it is. It is. And whether or not he decides to burn any of them, he might decide to just burn this top back right objective. I probably think he's going to burn the one with the Fulminators.
Yeah, 100%. I'd burn that one. I'd leave the other one. I'd force that fight.
Okay, so we're seeing in the combat phase here. I think the Fulminators have struck. They've killed an Alapex. That's 8 wounds gone down, which is quite impressive. And then the other Alapex alive and rolled pretty badly on his bite attack. So I think that's what we're seeing right now. The activation from the Sharks, right? Okay. So those Fulminators are going to grab that objective. So it's going to be a 6-point swing. Or if he burns that objective, he's going to get 7 points this turn. He's going to get 4 from the bottom, 5th for this one, and then 2 for burning that objective, which is going to be important. Okay, this Fulminator now down to 4 wounds. So, a Twitch chat, would you burn it? Would you not burn it? Would you raise it from the ground? What would you... James, you're burning this one with the Fulminator,
Burn that
right?
sucker, 100%.
Yeah? Ah, so he's burning both. He's gone for the big play. This reduces how many points the Idoneth can take back. But I would say that there's a bit of an... I guess because it makes going... and obviously, don't forget, he scores the bonus point for burning with the Hurricanum as well. So you get an additional bonus point.
Okay.
I would have left one, I think, to force my opponent to come over. But Marcus is playing a blinder right now. I don't want to second-guess him. Clark, so this objective he does own. So he previously has scored. So this objective you guys are talking about here, where there are no bodies. He did score it, so he put bodies on it the turn before, which means he owns it. And you can move off it when you own it. So that's what he's done there. This is round 2. Everyone, this is round 2. This is the first turn of round 2. So he's burnt them. So there we go. Pretty impressive turn, James. What do you think all over? It's a lot of action.
Just nuts. I think like seeing him kind of clinch that second turn priority and just like roll with it so strategically is really cool. It's really interesting, I think, to see like, from the break, most of the chat was kind of like, Deals have got this. Like, it's a super... or the Idoneth, I guess it's more sharks than eels. But, like, being able to see the tricks that Living City list can pull out. And, watching those Sisters of the Watch just, like, raise through that unit of no-rend eels it's just great, I think. Like, and realistically, I'd have still left that back objective because I'd have wanted those sharks to come closer and threaten me, so I could have shot again. Whereas that 18 inches, once they move, they're not as threatening because they're losing half their attack. So,
yeah, I think, but look at how good those Alapexes are. Even with 1 dead and 1 wounded, we still lost a Fulminator.
Yeah,
we still lost that Fulminator down to 2 wounds. To 4 wounds. So we did 6 wounds into this 3-up armor save damage from 1 Alapex. There are still 8 more on the board. So maybe he's playing a fragile game. The 6 sharks clearing the rest on the left-hand side. So everyone, 3 sharks are going to kill those Fulminators now. Reckons flaming confetti. Let's see what everyone thinks. Everyone seems to think, look at that. The Ishlin, they're straight in. They're grabbing that objective. That's going to be theirs for a while. So they ran, looking to maybe block a charge from this unit here. We have a back pocket unit of Shadow Stonkers, don't forget, in the bottom right-hand corner. I don't get the position of the boats. The position of the boats was put there to stop units from deep striking on into the midboard. That's what the position of the boats are for. Because you have to do it wholly within 6, and then you unfortunately have to treat this terrain as being terrain that you move up and down, so it will reduce your movement quite significantly. It's actually very good.
Silly
very
boats.
Annoying. Yeah. Yeah. Super annoying.
That's what I'd want to burn. Unfortunately, they're technically still underwater, so
yeah.
Not flammable.
So 2 Alapexes going into this unit of Phoenix Guard in the center. They've got that 4-up save, that 4-up DPR. There's also the Anointed in there as well with the Iron Arc Otizen. And he is within range of the objective, so he's not going to be able to burn it because a friendly hero means you can't burn that. But those sharks going in there. I mean, what else is he going to do? There's 10 more Phoenix Guard down here. This was a brick of. There's only 9 Phoenix Guard now. It was a brick of 20, but we saw them. Oh no! Oh no!
They're massacred.
That's a lot of. Maybe we just. Can we just talk about Marcus doing a smashing first turn and second turn? He was up against it, and for a moment, a glimmer of hope here, James. A glimmer of hope, but I feel this is going to go downhill very quickly.
Yeah, I think like it was really interesting to see that Living City come back, but I just think.
So just for everyone, it was a good comeback. Just for everyone wondering about the points, he scored 4 objectives at the bottom for his own turn. 4 objectives, all his. Then he scored 2 objectives for each one he burned, so that gives him 8 points there. Now, when you have a hero, when you burn an objective and you have a hero within 6 inches, you gain an additional bonus point. So that's 9 points. So that should put him on 13 points, right?
I'm not sure he ever capped all 4 of his own in the first turn.
Oh.
Because he got... Yeah. His Phoenix Guard got shot, didn't they? And we saw them removed from that
sweet.
mid-right
the players know. The players know, and the players are happy that it's 12-4, so we're all good, if everyone's happy with that. So there you go. So he put the king here to cloud the shooting on those archers next turn. Yes, of course he did. So right here, the Achillean king, he's got the cloud of midlight, which means you can turn off an attack during a phase, magic phase, combat phase, shooting phase, and of course, James, as we know, in Idoneth Deepkin, you can only shoot the closest enemy model. So this is the watch. They can say, "Hey, I'd like to shoot you." He'll go cloud of midnight, can't do anything to me, and then all of these will be able to. All of these.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
horrible army. But other than that, fine.
This is an army right now, as we know, thanks to Owen's stats, with a 60% win rate. This is the second best, the Idoneth Deepkin, second best performing army in Age of Sigmar on TTS. We're still waiting for some of that real world information to come in, but super strong, very very potent, and ultimately only really beat to the punch by Seraphon most of the time. And this is a different build to one you see either. Like, the amount of different Idoneth builds that you can see are just unreal. Like, really, really strong. The painting meta, though, oof, it's brilliant on this.
that painting meta. The Phoenix Guard looked great. That's a nice little model.
Yeah. The Phoenix, the Anointed.
Yeah.
These are all rips from Warhammer Total War.
Yeah, I realised, but they're pretty.
They're very pretty. They're very pretty.
I looked at them earlier and I was like, "Oh, nice T-pose on some of them lads."
They look great, right? Right. So, while we're waiting to see what horror happens in this turn, we're going to jump over now to our man Owen and find out what's happening at the rest of this in the rest of this bracket at this single elimination event. Over to Owen right now.
Just a really quick one, because I know people will be keen to know what's going on the other tables. Well, Adam and Matt, I'm not sure what's going on over there because they're not streaming anymore. I'm sure they're getting on fine, but I can't give you an update on the Daughters of Cain versus the Lumineth. What I can tell you is in the Seraphon mirror match, Koltar versus Trogdor. Koltar took turn 1. I thought he was going to bring all the Sallies on and just hose everything, but he didn't. He's kept 6 Salamanders off the board. He just moved up 3 units of 10 Skinks, screened out a lot of the board. Trogdor did quite a nice move. He then, countering that, he just buffed up 40 Skinks, teleported them in a big long line, and then effectively took out 3 units of 10 Skinks with shooting and charging and pinned him in and stole his top left corner objective. So he's going to be up 5-4. But now Koltar's won the priority. So the Dracothian's tail, I think we're going to see some hot fire coming out of some Salamanders, because there's going to be 6 Salamanders coming down wrecking. Trogdor's done a good job screening out, but I think he's still going to lose a lot of points. But the one that I think everyone's keen to hear about, Orkman versus Ridge. Orkman is looking in a great spot, I must say. He, Ridge was very conservative, castled up. He just summoned 10 skinks and threw them onto one corner objective or two objectives to get his 4 points. But now Orkman countered that with a Mighty Destroyer's move with some pigs up one flank. He then teleported. He got the teleport off against Croak. He teleported 5 buffed up Ardboys, who then wiped out the 10 skinks that had been summoned to take his objective. The pigs cleared the screen, so all the juicy stuff is there waiting to be hit. And Orkman wins priority, takes the turn, and he's now going to go in, and I think he's going to cripple that Seraphon army. The Salamanders look like they're ready to be charged by the pigs. I think Ridge is maybe going to get punished for being a bit too defensive. But yes, Orkman looks... I mean, there's a long way to go. It's only turn 2, but he's looking pretty solid there. And he's got loads of little MSU units that he can just throw around, and he's got lots of speed with the Mighty Destroyers moving pigs and stuff, the Gore Grunters. So, yes, it's pretty exciting over there on table 1, I must say. I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to pass you back now. You probably want to see how much of Marcus's army's left. Come on, Marcus, keep going. I'll pass you back to James and Rob, who are going to take you through the top table. Cheers, boys.
So, thanks to Owen. Very excited. The reason we didn't have Orkman on round 1 is because we trust him to be in round 3. We believe. And Twitch chat, I'm going to need you all to summon that energy because we know the orcs work better when you believe in them, James.
Or just eat loads of mushrooms because they get angry that you at their kids.
Yeah. So, welcome back. This is the bottom of round 2. So, in turn 1, the first turn was given away to the Idoneth Deepkin by the Living Cities force. We saw 10 Alapexes moved aggressively into the centre, and some screening by some Aetherwings on the right-hand side. And then we saw 11 Phoenix Guards shot off by the Alapex shooting. In turn 1 for Living City, we didn't see much happen. All of these units held the bottom objective, like the Phoenix Guard here, this depleted unit of Phoenix Guard, and the unit of Ironbreakers. We did see that we did see the Fulminators though run up the board here. Then they got the priority roll. Then they took out this objective, having killed this unit of Aetherwings. In turn 2, after the priority roll, we saw the Sisters of the Watch come on the Hurricaneum. We saw them all shoot off the long strike Raptors, Vanguard Raptors with long strikes, a unit of Ishling Guard, and we lost an Alapex. And now we're into turn 2. We're into turn 2 for Idoneth Deepkin. And not loads has happened in the shooting phase, apart from the Knight Heralder got his eyes blasted out by these harpoons.
Poor lad.
I'm so sorry, James. He went down. We only lost 2 more Phoenix Guard in the shooting phase down here. However, the charges have been fairly successful. In the charge phase, we have 4 Alapexes into this unit of 7 Phoenix Guard. The Achillean King has charged in. We have also seen the rest of the Alapexes have charged in. 5 Alapexes and an Achillean King versus 3 Fulminators. I don't know about you, James, but it looks like it's time for a reforging.
Yeah, I think those Stormcasts, I'd just be like, if I was a Stormcast now, I'd be looking up at the heavens and just be like, cool, I'm done. Lightning bolt. You know, like Thor in the Marvel movies where it's just like, Heimdall, home time. Like, I'd be like, Sigmar, I'm ready.
I'd be calling down. I'd be like, broken arrow, rain down lightning on my position, please, Sigmar. It's all gone really wrong. And Scott B, the King is a monster on the charge. That Achillean King. Don't forget also those Fulminators. Not that it matters in any way, shape, or form. They're also -1 to hit. And don't forget, even if they survive this fight, even if we go into the priority roll for turn 3, and that means it doesn't matter who wins the priority roll, because the Deepkin are going to get to all strike first. So let's, in some insane world, imagine the Fulminators survive. They then have to go through an entire round of combat again before they can strike again.
You just retreat. I think it's almost one of those rounds where you almost want to not give them an extra turn of free combat before you get to hit them.
It's actually a whole battle round of free combat, which is arguably rubbish. Also, those Fulminators are -1 to hit. Yeah, I mentioned that. So from the Void Chill Darkness, which is the mount trait on the Achillean King. But we probably... Okay, another Fulminator is down. Pretty certain they're all going to die. really
Yeah,
believe in.
100%.
I really believe in the Phoenix Guard at the bottom, but unfortunately, there's not many of them. Come on, they're up against it. This is a tough time for the lads. I'm not gonna lie. They've got pikes though, James. Isn't that good defense against a shark?
No. You need a harpoon gun, but they've brought their own. There isn't any left in the Mortal Realms because they took them all. They were like, sick of being shot with these, we'll have our own. Got on land with their super magical flying, not in water powers, stole them all, went back to the sea for a bit, got their boats out. Ugh.
Oh, okay, so don't worry though. We do have returning combat. The Fulminators at the top right are swinging back in to the wounded Alapex. So we might see this Alapex finally go down. So that will be 2, leaving only 8 Alapexes left to battle.
8 wounds is just...
It's pretty good.
There's like a dainty little Namati on the back of those sharks, right? Or is there 2? The 2 Namati on the back?
There's 2.
Yeah,
There's
2. Two dainty little Namati on the back of a shark. So the shark probably would be tanky. And then there's 2 little dudes. And then against that you have the reforged of the god of the Warhammer world holding the hammer that's brandished on all marketing material on a dragon born from the most celestial dragon in all the Mortal Realms. 5 wins.
Well, there's actually an interesting comparison because each one of these units, so it's 220 points for 2 Fulminators and it's 220 points for 2 Alapexes.
Right.
And so they're a straight up comparison. And if you notice 440 points of Fulminator charged into 1 Alapex. Into 2 Alapexes. So 440 versus 220. The 440 only killed 1 Alapex. In return, that 1 Alapex killed 1 Fulminator. So it feels like, just based on this very ruddy math, the Alapexes are twice as good as the Fulminators. Ultimately, but those 2 Fulminators though, looking to take down that final shark, right? Looking to take that final shark down, they swung, and unfortunately took the Alapex down to only a single wound. James, it's still alive, limping, but it is alive for another day.
And probably will finish them off.
Probably will. We haven't had the Achillean King go yet, and the Achillean King is terrifying. He's going to do some great work in there. And again,
I think he's sat there though. He's like, I don't want to be needed. Do you know who I am? I'm not lifting my arm today.
You guys do the work. I'm the king. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. And still,
I can't remember what mount does an Achillean King sit on? Do we know?
Yeah.
Chat now? What is it?
Goldfish.
Goldfish. Yeah. So he's like, my goldfish doesn't want to fight. It's having a nice time. Sort it out. You brought the sharks. I paid for them. Sort it out.
Yes, it's actually a deep mare mount is the actual name.
I prefer
of it.
goldfish. Let's just call them goldfish from now on. In fact, if someone wants to 3D print a goldfish and have their entire army on fish you can have in your house, that'd be great.
Yeah. It is a seahorse. I know. The joke about the goldfish was fun, hopefully entertaining for the audience at home. So you'll get the opportunity to tell me I'm wrong and have a great time. As you can see in this combat at the bottom now, we're down to 3 Phoenix Guard left. 5 Phoenix Guard left. They're flipped upside down. 5 Phoenix Guard left. We've had 1 unit of Alapexes attack here. So only 5 left. Another unit of Alapex is still to go in this combat at the bottom.
I think that almost shows how terrifying all that shark shooting was though, turn 1, doesn't it? Because all that focus fire ripped through a whole bunch of those Phoenix Guard, and now even in combat, they're gnashing terrifying jaws of a shark that everyone's scared of, in real life, in the game. Didn't kill as many Phoenix Guard. Harpoon launcher, more terrifying.
Yeah, Yeah, way more terrifying. I mean, you got to feel for Marcus. Marcus, friend of the show, he's like always in the chat. I'm rooting for him. Great guy. Sven, great guy as well. But it just feels like a double turn got him in a position to play, and then it's just been all over. As soon as his army's been able to activate, like, it's horrific, right? We haven't even seen all of it do it much shooting. So, like, outrageous. Okay, so the Phoenix Guard struck back in this bottom right-hand corner. They've done 1 wound. 1 wound into the Alapexes. And now the Alapexes are... So the Alapexes are attacking into the Phoenix Guard is where we're at now. This is pretty rough. I would like to see a Mega Gargant with the Achillean King in a bag. He wouldn't be mega... he would at the Mega Fair, says Merman UK. Like a little goldfish that he's won at the fair, James. That's great. What would a Mega Gargant even be able to do at the fair? He's not very good at shooting. Maybe that game where you hammer the strength meter.
Yeah, maybe. It depends what Mega Gargant you are, though, because when you're doing 2 damage, you're probably not going to hit very high.
Or hard. Right. Okay, so the Alapex is the bottom. They have unfortunately finished off those Phoenix Guard here. They've gone down. There's only the Anointed left. There is an Anointed there. It's looking pretty dominant for the Idoneth Deepkin. They're going to score those 2 center objectives. They are going to score those 2 top-hand objectives there. And I feel like that they could just hold on to those objectives. They don't even... I mean, they can't burn the one on the bottom left. They just can't burn it because it's the heroes nearby, so it's going to stop them. That's going to be pretty rough.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Anointed's lasting another round, though, is he?
No, I don't think he's lasting another round at all, truthfully. So he's got a lot of shots coming his way. Bless his heart. He's got 16 shots shooting at him. And then there's these Deepkin. Although maybe still some plays left. Are we going to see the Shadow Stonkers? As we can see here, we're going to see them teleported, try and take that top left-hand objective. And at this point, Sven with the Idoneth Deepkin does have to hold on to as many objectives as possible. Okay, and so the still in the combat phase. The Fulminators are no more, it seems, James. Didn't take very long for those Fulminators to go down. And that was 440 points of the living sitting army.
Yeah.
And he's not burning any objectives at all. So that is the state of the board at the end of Battle Round 2. It's looking really tough for Living City. What do you guys think? That's the real question. James, are you still rooting for the Fulminators?
Well, I was only rooting for the Fulminators, and now they're dead. So my eggs in my basket are gone, all smashed. I dropped that basket, and now they're all in pieces.
They are. They get licked up by sharks. I don't know if sharks even have tongues, but like it's.
There's a question for the chat: do sharks have tongues?
Answer me that, Twitch chat. Do sharks have tongues? So yeah, pretty tough time, all told, here for the Idoneth Deepkin. The Idoneth Deepkin for Living City. So about to roll off priority for turn 3. There is a bit of an issue here, James, in the allegiance ability for Idoneth Deepkin, where, I don't know if you know, they're all going to get to fight first in combat through the whole battle round.
And I think, did they just win that priority?
It's okay. Let them work it out.
Oof. I mean, yeah, it's a round, isn't it, where you basically want to avoid them, and they move 14 inches. So that's probably hard.
And they shoot 24, like, which is nice.
I mean, yeah, it's the shooting on those shots is just terrifying, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because they added that other weapon profile to them, and actually, what we're seeing is the profile that's existed the whole time here.
Yeah. The melee weapon is. They've always had the razor harpoons. I've actually played against a very similar list. Mr. Benjamin Savra and me played a game on TTS where he was. This is pre the new book. where I played against, I think I played against 6, and they were pretty tough. Pretty tough. So priority roll has been won by Living City. Living City, and they are taking the turn. Let's see what they can do here. It's going to be pretty hard, I think. They might be able to run this unit of Ironbreakers onto this objective and steal it back for a cheeky point. Take the unit of Shadow Stonkers, teleport up here, take out this Aether Wings, burn this objective. Maybe. Probably do nothing with the Phoenix Guard. Might be able to mortal wound off the Akkadian King. But then, unfortunately, he's going to activate his Cloud of Midnight, which means he's not going to be able to be targeted in the shooting phase. So all of this brick over here is going to do very little. But we saw the Battle Mage in the hero phase try to cast Cage of Thorns on this unit over here. It's not going to do very much because it didn't go off. So, that Cloud of Midnight, very powerful artifact on that Akkadian King. James?
Who knows what the hell?
So what it does, so that what the Cloud of Midnight does is it means that you can activate it in a phase, and then you can say, I'm untargetable for this phase. And so really it's a massive, you basically become indestructible. So in the shooting phase, he'll say, I'm going to activate the Cloud of Midnight, and then all of these shooting units won't be able to target them. And then because it's the closest unit, the enemy, it's the only unit the shooting can target. So it's the only unit that he can target because of the Idoneth Deepkin Allegiance ability. So it effectively makes the entire army immortal to shooting with one artifact. That's what it does. You don't like it?
It's just such a janky combo, I think, isn't it? I think that's, for me, is always one of those examples where it's like, cool, you wrote this artifact that in theory is like, oh, I've got a wizard, I need him to stay alive another turn, I'll put this on him and save it, and then it's like, oh, let's write this book. Oh, they can only shoot the closest one. Oh, we haven't thought about how that works with the janky artifact we wrote.
Yes, it's very strong, and it ties into how the whole army plays, basically. But at the same time, says Tavigain, it makes the Idoneth player decide to go to them and fight the archers, not gaining any objectives. Yeah, there was a cost benefit analysis ultimately of having it available to the Idoneth Deepkin army, but it does key in really nicely with their allegiance ability, which is super useful. And they've had the ability to do that since the Battletome came out, James. So it's not new.
No, it's just such a terrifying, I think.
Well, it's not fun, right? Because you just can't play. You're like, cool, yeah. I can't play.
Well, I think especially when you put it against something like Living City, so one of its key features is that he's brought a shooting unit and a buffing unit on from a board edge in order to try and remove units. And then you're like, cool, you can't shoot for a whole turn.
Yeah. It's pretty huge. It's pretty huge, especially for this army. But it is what it is. That's the shape of the game. The Anointed of Asurian has run out of combat there. As you can see, he didn't want to be engaged with all of these Alapexes. So that's a good decision. I don't think he would have survived that fight. The unit of Ironbreakers did try to run onto the objective, James. They tried it, but they're dwarves. They got tiny legs. And they
don't want to be running.
They did not run, and they didn't get very far at all. So they didn't make the move at all. They rolled a 1, and so they're deciding to stay there. That meant he would have been able to put a point back on the board. Massive shame he wasn't able to get that, just to clip that extra point. But he didn't get that. So it's going to be a low-scoring turn already. And like we've talked about, his inability to actually use his own units in his turn, and then added to the fact that the entire Deepkin army is going to be able to fight first this entire round, is pretty much game over.
Yeah.
is what it is. So there's not really much else to talk about. It's felt lopsided right from the start, James. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other issue is now, isn't it? So those archers aren't going to be able to shoot this round because of that artifact.
And they're dead next round.
Well, why bother? I think the interesting thing for me now is that, so now he doesn't even have to engage with them. They've got an 18-inch range. if they move, they shoot literally 50% worse. So I would just go. They don't matter. He could literally move backwards, reinforce his own objective, make them walk forwards. If he wants to engage them, just send 2 Alapexes in. They'll kill them all anyway. Or shoot them, and they'll kill them all anyway. But he doesn't really have to engage with them. He could literally just move his Alapexes to the other side of the board, take every objective and sit on them. He's still going to win on attrition points.
He's going to win. Just win over the course of the game, right? You're right. He could just move away. 18 inches. He's threatening 0% of the board at this stage.
Yeah.
And so he could just take all of the sharks and he could just move away. He could be like, cool, I'm not playing this game. And he could bring all of those Alapexes down, take these bottom objectives. Even on the double, if he ran the Sister of the Watch and then moved, he might be able to affect this unit of Eastling Guard. Don't forget the Shadow Stonkers, which I think we're about to see play here, move across. They're still got a part of the game, so you might want to have to deal with these as soon as possible, because they're probably going to go and grab one of these objectives off him, which is a pretty good play. But he's still got... he's got a lot of options to spread out. One of the things also that's really awesome about this list, in the Idoneth Deepkin's favour, is the fact that it's MSU. So he can just take 2 sharks, which is 220 points of good shooting and good output, and go take an objective. So Scorched Earth, which is my favourite battle plan, massively favours this army anyway. But it also means he can just play a lot of the field. He's got loads of options to just take a little 3-man unit, take it somewhere. A little 2-man unit and take it somewhere. And that's really, really useful for this army, this battle plan, and also just generally for the game as is. I do wonder how that they would face off against like a big brick of like Fire Slayers or something like that. But I guess that they would just shoot them to pieces over the course of a few turns. And then go all in on turn 3.
40 shots is going to ping off a few here and there, isn't it? The Fire Slayers are never going to catch you, so you can kite them around the board. And then I think turn 3, you're just like, cool, now I go ham. Like, I move up, I shoot you, I charge. Yeah. You should be dead.
Yeah. It's it's pretty strong, let's be honest. The victory points are 12-8. That's where we're currently sat. And we're into the Deepkin movement on turn 3. No, we're not onto Deepkin. Sorry. So Living City movement in turn 3 is where we are. And I think that we've had everything move where it's going to move, ultimately.
I think we'll probably see those Phoenix Guard maybe move onto the nullification terrain.
So they've ran 5, so they're trying to get in cover to give themselves as much chance to survive as possible. And I quite like the board, actually. I really like these little bits of terrain. They're not massive, right? So you can fit like these 10 bodies on a 25mm base onto this cover. That's cool, but it's not like I can put a massive brick of... Maybe you could get 30 guys on there, but I'm not certain.
Maybe 25 mils, but I don't think you get anything else on.
Yeah, and so it's a nice little piece, to make these units more survivable. Those Iron Breakers over there are going to be as survivable as possible. Probably the Eastern Guard not able to knock them off, but I do think we're going to see some of these Alapexes come down and try and deal with them at the same time. I mean, ultimately, don't forget, the Sister of the Watch have also got stand and shoot there, James. So he might elect. I would probably take the Achillean King and just take him smash up the battle cart, the ambushing cart and wagon from the Viridian Pathways. I'd be like, I can't believe you popped out. Okay, so the Cloud of Midnight has been activated, so we now have an immortal unit in the middle of the board. And the Shadow Stonkers are attempting a charge right here. Let's go. And they did not make the charge. So that's pretty huge.
Yeah.
It's pretty huge. There's some rough dice rolls there. The Iron Breaker's not making the run roll into the center. The Shadow Stonker's not making the charge. And the Cities of Sigmar score 2 more points. Only 2. That's so it's 14-8. It's looking very good for Cities of Sigmar going into round 3. But the Idoneth Deepkin are already going to score 4. Going to score 4 based on where they are. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's lights out. It's game's over. It's really like... It's like when you get an ice cream, James. From the ice cream man. From the ice cream van. You're not... do you lick it? Do you bite it? You know, like, do you eat the bottom of the cone first? You know, do you eat the flake first? It doesn't really matter. You're still going to eat it in some way. It's just like, which way do you approach it? Like a cream egg. How do you eat yours? This is really, how does Sven want to win this game?
Yeah.
not if.
I think realistically, like, if he wants to just end it, you move most of those sharks in between the Ironbreakers and the Sisters of the Watch. You shoot at the Sisters of the Watch, you charge the Ironbreakers, and you clear, like, he clears that bot objective. He's got 3 he can burn.
I wouldn't even burn them. I'd be trying to, because he's down points, so I'd just be trying to like generate as many points as possible, right? We're also going to see another fun little combo here, and this is the command points coming in now from the Idoneth Deepkin, and they're giving +1 attack to those Alapexes. So already deadly, they're now even more deadly with +1 attack. So we might see them do some pretty significant work. Be interesting to see how he does decide to split his force. Ultimately, I think these Alapexes might try and hit these Phoenix Guard. Maybe. I'm not certain if that's what he's going to do over on this this objective here. I mean, he only just killed them last time, right? Only just killed them with all 4 Alapexes. So he might decide not to do that. They're in cover now as well, which they're tougher than they were previously. He's got these. I think you're right. I think just ignore the Sister of the Watch. They're pointless.
I just wonder if, and they're never going to catch him. And if they do, they're only going to do 20 shots, which isn't enough. Like, as he starts to deal with the other issues he's got on the board, you can. I mean, with 24-inch range, he not only outmoves them, but he also outranges them. So he can kite them around the board and pick them off from those harpoon launchers without ever feeling any threat from them now.
Mm. And I mean, look at what Sven did in the middle of the board, right? So when he deployed, he put his sharks right in that center, holding that like middle board quite aggressively, which I thought was quite sensible. And it also meant that the only place that this Living City army could deep strike is the difference between the deep strike between, so let's say, Seraphon, and the deep strike between Living City is, you know, you're pinned into that wholly within 6 inches of the board edge. So your opponent knows where you're coming, which is why we're seeing the boats deployed where the boats are. It's why we see the units where they end up. And they're slow. Like, the reason... Deepkin are super fast. Seraphon are super fast. They're able to project power massively across range. You can talk about all the buffs and the cheap units and all the other stuff, but ultimately they've got lots of choices of where they want to be and how they get there. Living City have got this, like, I turn up, and then I'm here.
I think it's that thing, isn't it? It's lots of the game's about control, and I think like deep striking and teleportation is very much about like the control that you can take and play out in the game. I think the problem is when you know someone's got to come in wholly within 6 inch of a board edge, and even on 25mm bases, we know that Sisters of the Watch is a decent amount of size. Like, placing those boats there, you're like, cool, you can go the far side of a boat. You can't see over that terrain, so therefore you can't shoot me. You're going to take wounds from it. Like, it just gives you so much more control than being like, cool, that unit can deploy anywhere within 9 of me. At which point you're like, okay, so I've got to have like 9-inch bubbles blocked for an entire game, which I think is a lot harder.
Much harder. Beyond the first turn, the army really, like, it loses tempo. That's kind of a thing I sometimes talk about. Like, it loses tempo quite aggressively, whereas like a lot of other armies can continue the tempo. And actually, the Idoneth Deepkin, as we can see here, and as we see in most games, their tempo really only ramps up. They're very okay to not engage early. Like, they're cool with it. They're like, whatever. And I think what I really like about Sven's list is previously we'd see like MSU 3 of Morsar Guard be the engagers, the early engagers for traits. But now they don't have to bother with that at all. They've got a 24-inch threat range of shooting. And they're just like, cool, I'm just going to engage you this way. And then I'm going to get to turn 3. And it's an aggressively me platform at that point. Their tempo is huge. Like, you know, you could even be winning, right? You could be you can even sometimes be in a position where you're doing so well and then Idoneth Deepkin turn 3 comes in, and now you're just losing, like just by the mechanics of their ability, allegiance ability. That's what I'm looking for, the battle trait.
I think the problem is, isn't it? I think like, well, kind of with the Idoneth Deepkin book is it has lots of core abilities just packed into that army.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, what you need to do is remove enough that by like that third turn, they're not as scary. But it's just so hard to remove them. Like, you can't just shoot them off the board easily because, I mean, we saw the Cloud of Midnight trick in this one, but also like only targeting the front unit means they can continually feed you what they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can. Yeah, it means the opponent can't pick you apart.
Yeah,
which is such a useful ability, right? It affects so many things. So we're into this. We're in the movement, shooting phase now. We've done all of our movement, as you can see. The Ishin Guard have moved up here. All 3 Alapex is dealing with these Shadow Stalkers at the back. And James, they've decided. Sven's decided to do exactly what you had planned, which was just ignore the Sisters of the Watch. He just left them up there. So, that's like 500 points of the army that really just isn't engaged in the game anymore. And now we're seeing some shooting going into the Phoenix Guard, who are in that cover. So they're pretty survivable. 3 up armor save, 4 up DPR. But we have lost a couple already. And we've also we've shot into another really tanky unit. This unit of Iron Breakers just in the tall grass. I'm surprised they can even see him. Though, James, if I'm honest. Maybe they could just see that book sticking out beyond the tall grass.
I reckon so. I mean, those Iron Breakers, they're probably making a lot of noise too, having a beer. They've basically walked 2 foot all game.
That's the most they've done. I mean, it's a lot of armor to carry around, right?
I think that's the other interesting thing, isn't it? It's like comparatively, when you look at these 2 armies, we've got these units on the backboard that are tanky, that have been kind of holding ground, but basically have no mobility. Like those Iron Breakers couldn't get from where they are to that next objective, and
they couldn't even get that far. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And then you're and obviously 2 completely different armies, but you're then kind of counterplaying that against those 2 sharks that can move 14, they can shoot 24. Like there's just like, and we've talked about it the whole way through. There was always a disadvantage to the game, but it's always really interesting, I think, to kind of just watch like how that picks apart on the table.
Yes. Yeah, how that picks. Yeah, you're right. 100%. 100%. I love watching this army play. So this Sven's army, when we saw it play the last time on the tabletop, and now when I'm seeing it play this time, I love it. It's got absolutely everything that I want out of an army. It's got amazing allegiance abilities. It's got the ability to project power through shooting. It's got great combat. It's got like tanky units. It's a great list. Marcus's list is great as well. But just unfortunate. And Marcus has played some blinding moves. Sven just played a solid game, really smart. He's put all of his pieces in the right places. He's engaged really well. I feel like he was the beatdown. He just had all the strength early on anyway. I think Marcus has played some really great moves to try and get himself back in the fight, but it's just an efficiency conversation. The Deepkin army is just hands down, pants down better. There's just no other conversation about this. This is significantly better, like we saw with the Fulminator combat. Like, it's not even on the same real plane. But both players played a really solid game. But this Deepkin army, terrifying in top tier competitive play at the minute, I would say. And it plays into all the advantages that I'd want an army to have. I think it's brilliant. It's really, really good. So we're into combat now, James. We've seen some big charges. We've seen the Alapexes charge into the Phoenix Guard, and we saw the Eastern Guard at the top, and we saw another 2-unit Alapexes into the Ironbreakers. We know that the Shadow Stalkers are down to only 2 left, not forgetting they're natively -1 to hit. So that's pretty rough that they've gone down already. Don't forget, all of the Deepkin are going to attack before the enemy. How many Phoenix Guard do you think we're going to see die here, James?
I don't imagine we'll see more than 2 left.
Oh, wow. That's a big prediction. That's a big prediction. Only 2 left. You think he's going to kill all but 2? Okay. What about the Ironbreakers? We're going into the Ironbreaker combat now. Twitch chat, give me your predictions. These Ironbreakers.
So there's 2 going in. He might kill 4, I reckon.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
because the other thing is we're looking at like loads of 1 wound models, aren't we? So as tanky as they are, they're still just 1 wound. And then they're going to be susceptible to battle shock, which isn't something I don't think we see that much anymore, but it's going to be a point where it matters.
So he's killed 7 Ironbreakers. I think that's the main problem, James, if I could talk about it for a moment, is Ironbreakers are there to break iron. Their job is to like be tanky, full of mithril. You know, I don't think it's called mithril anymore. I don't know what it's called. Gromril, that's what it's called. So Gromril. And their job is to like take a bladed weapon and survive, you know, and break the iron of the bladed weapon. Unfortunately, they're being eaten by jaws. If they were jawbreakers, whole different kettle of fish, right?
Yeah, maybe they could be breaking some shark jaws.
Yeah, they can't they?
They can't.
They're screwed.
Well, there's only 3 left. Is that what we're looking at?
There's only 3 Ironbreakers left right now.
There's a good chance most of those are going to run away.
Very, very strong chance. They are bravery 7 though, and if he has kept the banner, which he has done, he gets to add 1. So they are bravery 8. They are bravery 8. So if he rolls a 1, he's staying. Those 3 boys are staying. Oh, okay. So he lost 1 during shooting. Well, then how are there 7 left? Oh, it doesn't matter if there are 7. Then and it started at 10.
Yeah.
Then he's still bravery 8. So if he rolls a 1. He's safe, and if he rolls a 1, he claims the objective, James. That's what we're looking for. Yeah? That's what we're looking for. Oh my god. James, you were right. The Sharks.
Ate them. I tell you, I think...
So the Sharks just murdered them. The guys on top, so the Eastling Riders did nothing, but the guys on top. Right, so, look. It looks like it's pretty rough. We'll come back to this game in a moment to see what happens in this. But we'll take a small break and we'll go over to our man Owen Jackson because we know we're rooting for Orkman in the final. Maybe we'll see him against these Eels and Sharks. We'll see. So going over to Owen now to find out what's happening in the rest of this bracket in this single elimination TTS event. Over to Owen right now.
Thanks, James. So obviously it looks to be all wrapping up on that table. I chose the game, so you can blame me for not having Orkman on. But we believe that he's going to make it through to the final, and he's doing a great job. He's still very much dominant against Ridge Hanna's Seraphon Fangs of Sotek. He had some cute moves. He won the double from 1 to 2. So you saw a move where 3 Gore Grunters went up the flank, cleared a screen. He won the double. He was then able to move them. He teleported a War Chanter to give them the buff. Another, like, Orkman teleporting little heroes around the board is a real, it's like his sort of calling card. But yeah, so he teleported a War Chanter who was able to then give the buff to the pigs. They then charged the back end of a load of salamanders, charging the skink handlers outside of 3 of 40 skinks to avoid having the parting shot from the Fangs of Sotek command ability. And then he piled into the skinks, and I think he cleared about 22 out of the 40. So he severely crippled the Seraphon army. The Seraphon army is basically turtled up in one corner. He's up on points. He's got the board. He's got plenty of bodies left. I think Ridge really needs a double turn to have any chance in that game. So maybe Orkman is gonna romp through to face potentially another Seraphon army. If Orkman does win, then he's gonna have to face either Koltar, Trogdor. I mean, looking at my notes, Seraphon Mirror, it's like they're playing a completely different game of Warhammer. I really must say that. Effectively, it's just like a plethora of buffs going onto a load of units. He's then they're able to teleport them around the board and just hose things off in the shooting phase, and obviously all the mortal wounds in the hero phase. Looking at it, I did some stats yesterday, just a little sort of sneak peek into perhaps something we might talk about at the Stats Center on Monday. The breakdown of the win percentage for TTS for Seraphon is an overall of, I think it was about 62, but the Coaltar is bringing Dracothian's Tail. Now, Dracothian's Tail have a 79.5% win ratio against the 66% win ratio of Fangs of Sotek. So Coaltar's Dracothian's Tail should have the edge over Trogdor's Fangs of Sotek. It's not actually proving to be the case. Coaltar took the turn into turn 2, and it doesn't look like he's done really much at all. He's only got 7 points on the board, so he scored his own home objectives once. He lost one of them in Trogdor's turn, and he wasn't able to take it back. So Trogdor's got the board, and he's obviously having to keep screening out. But yeah, I think Trogdor's looking good. And then Matt versus Audum. This is Daughters of Cain versus Lumineth. They can't stream the game because of technical issues, but Matt says he's got the worst luck. So I think that the Daughters of Cain are ascendant there. So with that, I'm going to hand you back to the table, probably just to see loads of Idoneth all over the board and none of the Living City left. But I'll pass you back to Rob and James, who will wrap up the game. Cheers, boys. Bye.
Right, welcome back. As you can see from our disconnected from server image, the game is all over. All of the... Yeah, so let's talk about it real quick. Turn 1, given away. I'll just go back to me and James. It'll be easier. You can see some faces on the board. Hello, everyone. Lenny Winks, thanks for resubscribing. Marcus, no problem at all. Big shout out to Marcus Rock in the chat, who was playing with that Living City list. James, like, honestly, like, I know, like, you've been playing some Lord of the Rings and some other stuff, but it felt like a bit of an imbalance. How did you feel going into that? Like, it looked rough, right? You're muted, baby. You're muted.
Sorry, didn't want to talk over Owen. I was just sat there dribbling over him. Didn't want anyone to hear.
Me too.
I think like, it's been so long, like, I've talked about it probably on the Monday show for anyone that watches that, but it's been a long time since I've played any Age of Sigmar, especially just with lockdown and life, and I haven't really ever got into the TTS thing hugely personally. But I think it was almost like painful to watch. Like that turn 2, Marcus took that priority, and he kind of did realistically almost everything I think I would have done. Maybe even some things I probably hadn't even seen. Like the players I think were just brilliant, and I don't think it mattered. Like watching those Fulminators, like, and having played. So I played Fulminators like 2 years ago. So let's go with the fact that 2 years ago they were super strong and probably at their release and at a high point. But watching them just like hit those Alapexes on the charge with 3 flat damage, which is like up there with, you know, the Celestin Prime or whatever else, and then be like, oh cool, they killed 1.
Yeah, I mean, also the important point there is it was a 440 point unit who got the charge off, no debuffs on them. In fact, they might have even been within range of the Hurricane, so they might also have had +1 to hit, but I'm not certain if that's true because they might charge outside of range of it. But 440 points versus 220 points, and they lost the fight, really. Like, they didn't have the +1. Thanks, Marcus. But still, they just flat lost the fight, which is kind of fascinating. And of course, sometimes you're comparing, if I was comparing a 440 point shooting unit versus a combat unit, but it's a combat unit, really. Those Fulminators.
Well, they're both technically cavalry units, aren't they? They both have a good attack. They both have a shoot. They're both cavalry. They both come in 2s, and they're both exactly the same points.
Yeah, but one's moves 14 and is 16 wounds. Yeah, and the other's 10. Flies also. Yeah, like there's a very significant points disadvantage there, which I think is interesting. And you got to say massive shout out to Marcus to rep in the army, and and also massive shout out to to Sven. Sven did a great. This is not to take anything away from Sven either. So I think he could have made some mistakes, right? He still played great. We saw him activate exactly how we wanted him to play. He put the Achillean King forward. He activated Cloud of Midnight. He controlled the board. He split his army up. But even splitting the army up, which Marcus did, I think on purpose, to make his army have to be in a bunch of places at once, he could just bring so much damage to bear even just from 2 Alapexes.
I think
you know,
it's just that threat range, isn't it? Like, and don't get me wrong, like that point where, you know, we talked about it and those archers were all in the corner and the Hurricaneum, and there was just that point where it was like, oh, you were like, oh, he rinses them. And I'm like, you just ignore them. Like, there's no range. And, you know, he moved away. He played, ignoring everything else, he played that game absolutely tactically really well and really strong. It's just that arm is just so powerful. And I think it's when there's games like that, isn't there? So what we're looking at is a bunch of players who have played to get to this event. They've played their armies well. They've played different opponents. They all know what they're doing. So we're not watching like someone that's just picked up an army. We're watching someone that knows what they're doing in the game, what they're doing against other opponents. Like, there's proof, there's statistics to back that up. But then you're just watching like those sharks with like a 36 are they? 38-inch threat range?
38-inch threat range, yeah.
You know, like, is basically a board.
It's
no evasion.
It's competent. Like honestly, the stonks on sharks are high. If you could get a bunch of Alapexes, also I can imagine it would be a blisteringly fun army to play. Like, crazy fun army to play. You've got some sharks, you run them around, they smash in a fight, they shoot, like, just brilliant. Like, the imbalance we could talk about all day, and I think that's super fair. 60% win rate on those Idoneth. Not even necessarily that build. And I think, like, you'd also see it be higher. Like, but still, what a fun army to put on the tabletop for yourself. And you'll dominate. You will dominate with that army. Like, that is a plug and play, pick up, smack it on the board. It's an elite army, quick to paint. You could have a great time with that army. I think it's wild, ultimately. Mr. Teague in the chat says, I play a version of the Idoneth Deepkin with 8 sharks instead of 10, with a turtle, and it's super fun to play. Yeah, man. Like, there's no way that wasn't fun. Every time I see it, I just think you've got so much control of the board. You can deal with threats at range. You've got some big bites when you're going in. Turn 3s around the corner. Like, and ultimately, who wouldn't want to play with, like, a bunch of sharks? And Mr. Teague says, a turtle. Exactly. So, but they are probably way too efficient points-wise, comparative to other units in other books. But still, smashing job. Maybe we'll see Sven in the final. I'm not really certain what can take that out, James. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Don't forget the other 3 games, like Owen said, are still battling it out. We'll see who does make it to the final. We aren't going to be covering round 2, but we will be hearing from Owen what's happening in the semi-finals. And instead, we're going to be reacting to the Games Workshop release. So we're going to be back in 40 minutes. I think that's the time. About 50 minutes. So we'll be back about midday as we just build up. Me, Tom, John, and Nick, the original React crew, are back to do the React. And then later on, so at 4:30, we will be here for the next game. So for the final. So that's going to be, or Midnight Gammy. Oh, baby. Sexy man. So it's going to be really good. James, thanks very much for joining me for the stream.
It's been a pleasure.
You guys are all brilliant. Thank you, Twitch chat. Thank you to both Sven and Marcus for playing the game. It was super fun. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And thank you to everyone. So just join us again in like 50 minutes. It's Super Saturday. We've got all of it in, James. Super Saturday. We've got reveals. We've got games.
Almost. It's bigger than the Super Bowl. Some people have probably stayed up till 3 a.m. to watch this too.
Let's do it. Right. You guys are great. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great day. We'll see you in an hour, basically. Come back in an hour.